Walters is the place to be before and after games at Nationals Park. Be sure to check out their self-poured beer wall, including options such as the Dr. Juicy IPA from Silver Branch Brewing Company.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Now the pitch of the way is swung on into the air to deep right again. Cruz back, can only watch, and this one is gone. Goodbye into the second deck above the bullpen. That one into section 239, and Corbin Carroll has himself a 2-home run game and a 2-run shot. Gives the Diamondbacks the lead. It's now Arizona 4 and Washington 3.
Swinging a long drive right field for Lowe. Way back this one goes, and this game is tied. That's off the facing of the second deck. Nathaniel Lowe with his third of the season, and the Nationals have evened it up. It's the Nats 4, the Diamondbacks 4. I want a line smash out of here in the blink of an eye. Runners lead first and third. Perdomo a big lead off third. Here it comes. Swinging a fly ball right field. Long chase going back for Cruz to the warning track. He leaps at the wall and he can't get it. It's off the wall. 2 runs will score. Grichuk in at second with a double. Perdomo scores. Hampson behind him, and the Diamondbacks back in front 6-4.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Friday night was an historic night in Washington, D.C. sports as winger Alex Ovechkin scored 2 goals in the Capitals' 5-3 win over the Chicago Blackhawks at Capital One Arena, tying Wayne Gretzky's record of 894 career NHL regular season goals. The magic, though, did not extend to Nationals Park, where the Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season fell to 1-6, a 6-4 loss to the Arizona Diamondbacks in Game 1 of a 3-game series. This despite the Nats hitting 3 more home runs. The Nats, over their 7 games, have smashed 12 homers, and yet are 1-6. And we on Friday had bad injury news for the Nats, as the Nats on Friday morning announced having play starting pitcher Michael Soroka on the 15-day injured list, retroactive to April 1st with a right arm biceps strain. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Open Window Property Management, LLC, which serves the entire DMV. And Open Window Property Management's parent company has been serving military families for 40 years. Give Open Window Property Management a call today, 703-955-4017. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website that we invite you to check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. So, Mark, Friday was the 20th anniversary of the first regular season game for the Washington Nationals, April 4th, 2005. The Nats on Saturday are inducting the 2005 Nats into the team's Ring of Honor during a pregame ceremony. Between all of that and Ovechkin, you'd think that the karma, the juju for the Nats this weekend would be good, but 1-6 now is the record.
And yet, for, about 20 minutes to start this game, you actually did feel there was something going on, because they scored 3 runs in the bottom of the first time they've actually scored in the first inning all season. And you thought, okay, here it is. It's going to finally go their way. And then there just wasn't a whole lot else the rest of the way to get excited about. And I'm thinking about this afterwards, the 1-6, and trying to figure out, like, what does it really mean? And I got to say, from my perspective, I don't feel like I'm watching a 1-6 team. I feel like they are better than that. I understand the results are certainly not there. And I'm not going to sit here and try to say that they're playing well. They're not playing good baseball, but I don't think they're playing 1-6 baseball. I think I'm looking at 3 straight 2-run losses. You had a 3-run loss in Toronto, and then you had an extra inning loss against the Phillies. There's really only one game, the 11-6 game here, game 2 of the season, that felt out of reach the whole way. Everything else, they've been there with a chance to win it late. Now, I'm not trying to sugarcoat this or make it seem like everything's good, because it's not. 1-6 is not good at all. But I feel like they are close to being much more competitive than the record would suggest. And I do wonder, as we've discussed, is this opening 2-week schedule getting them? Placing 4 pretty good teams to not great teams in some cases. And maybe once they get through this stretch against the Diamondbacks and Dodgers, and they finally go on the road to face the Marlins, the Pirates, and the Rockies, maybe we see this thing flip in the other direction. You certainly hope so. If it doesn't, then I think we're really talking about this being a troubling situation. But they got to find some way to execute late in the game, at the plate, on the mound, whatever it takes, and flip some of these games, because they do have an opportunity pretty much every night to win a game, and they just aren't doing it.
Well, the only real aspect of the Nats that has been unequivocally bad so far has been the bullpen. Like, that indisputably has been a real weakness. But beyond that, it's not like the starting pitching has been wretched. It's not like the offense has been wretched, even though there have been some bad games. But like I said, the Nats are homering. I mean, we were begging for this, and we're getting this. 12 homers over 7 games, and yet that record is 1-6. I think the concern would be the bullpen continues to be bad. And the starting pitching now, it feels like the boat is taking on water with the injury situation, and with the starting pitching in recent games having started to falter. Like, you're not getting the outings that you got in that regular season opening series against the Philadelphia Phillies, at least not lately. 1-6, we get it. It's 7 out of 162. This could change very quickly, and the Nats schedule is going to soften after this homestand. But, you can't just count on beating bad teams. Like, at some point, you do have to beat better teams, and that hasn't happened, at least not so far. So with the starting pitching, Jake Irvin was the Nats starting pitcher on Friday evening. Had a rough outing, 4 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 7 hits, which were 2 home runs by Corbin Carroll, 2 doubles, and 3 singles. He issued a walk. He had 3 strikeouts, did throw a lot of strikes, 86 pitches, 57 strikes, 29 balls. Irvin, in his first start of this regular season, was pretty good. 2 runs, 5 innings, in the Nats' 11-6 loss to the Phillies at Nationals Park last Saturday. What'd you think of Irvin on Friday evening?
I thought it was similar to his first game against the Phillies in that there was a lot of traffic on the bases and that he only went 5 innings. The difference was he got through that last one, minimizing the damage and only 2 runs score, and he couldn't do that in this case. And that's really a product of Corbin Carroll more than anything. 3 of the 4 runs he gave up were directly off the bat of Carroll, solo homer in the 3rd and 2-run homer in the 5th. And, I'm not going to say you wipe those out and ignore that and say the rest of the start looks good, because you can't do it that way. But it really did feel like one guy beat him. And he was especially down on himself for that second home run. He gives up a 1-out double to Perdomo. So there's a runner on second, first base is open. Obviously a very good hitter at the plate who bats left-handed. And he felt like he just laid a curveball over the plate. He's trying to throw a first pitch curveball, get ahead in the count. That's okay, but you can't get too lazy with it. And he just put it on a platter for him, and you saw what happened, 2-run homer. So he was down on himself for that, I think, more than anything. And for the fact that his team did give him an early lead, and it's his job to now run with that and protect that lead, and he didn't do it. Now, of course, they could have helped out by scoring more in support of him later on in the game, but I think he took it personally to say, after 1 inning, we're up 3-1. It's on me now to make sure that lead is still intact whenever my night's done.
I was thinking about Jake Irvin the other day. So last season, he, for a period of time, was probably the Nats' best starting pitcher. But like every other Nats starting pitcher, there were ups and downs. And it kind of escaped me. His final numbers for last regular season actually ended up not being that good. The ERA 4.41, The ERA plus 91, well below league average. Now, he made a major league high tying 33 starts, so he was a workhorse, 187 and 2/3 innings. But those final numbers were not as good as I thought they might have been. You know, Irvin is not a guy who has been as well regarded as, say, a Mackenzie Gore or Josiah Gray in terms of where Irvin was drafted, you know, the pedigree in terms of like his prospect rankings. How significant of a season do you think this is for Jake Irvin in terms of the performance, in terms of him being a part of the Nats rotation moving forward?
Well, I think it's his opportunity to show that he is a reliable big league starter. And maybe there's more in there. Maybe the guy we saw in the first half last year, that's who he can be. But even if it's not that, it's his opportunity to say, yes, you give me the ball every fifth day, and I'm going to be a workhorse for you, and I'm going to give you a chance to win the game. First half of last season, he did that and more. Second half, he didn't do it. And I think he was really determined coming into this to put together a solid 6 months and not just 3. Is he in the long run a number 2 starter on a good team? Maybe not. Has seemed to exceed expectations to this point, so maybe there is a chance he can be that guy. I don't know they need him to be that guy, but they do need him to minimize damage and give him length. I know it's early, so you're going to pull him. You know, they're not letting him go that deep. But of all the guys in the rotation that I would have thought would be good for 6 innings and maybe even reach the 7th here early on, I probably would have put him at the top of the list. And instead, he's gone 5 innings twice. And as we said, with a lot of traffic on the bases, there have not been clean innings from him. So I think he holds himself to a higher standard. I think they hold him to a higher standard than this. Whether that means in the long run he's good enough to be like a number 2 starter on a playoff team, I don't think they want to rule that out, but I think realistically they know that he's more like a number 3, just workhorse type who gives you a chance for the most part every time he takes the mound.
And that's bullpen in this 6-4 loss to the Diamondbacks on Friday evening. Another game in which the bullpen gives up at least a run. It has happened in every game for the Nats so far this regular season. 5 Nats relievers combined to allow 2 runs in 4 innings. It wasn't all bad, but there was enough bad. Lucas Sims, a perfect top of the 6th. Jose A. Ferrar, 2 runs in 1 inning. He in the top of the 7th gave up 2 runs on a double and 2 singles, gave up a pinch, 2 out, opposite field, a 2-run double by Randall Grichuk off the right field wall on a 1-2 pitch for a 6-4 Diamondbacks lead. Eduardo Salazar tossed the perfect top of the 8th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Colin Poche in the top of the 9th faced 3 batters, got just 1 out. He gave up a 1-out single, then issued a 1-out walk. So another walk issued by Poche. And Orlando Revolta, he in the top of the 9th faced 2 batters and got 2 out. So actually Sims, Salazar, and Revolta did well. Ferrar, man, the stuff is so good. He looked like he was about to get out of the inning, and instead he ends up giving up arguably the hit of the game, that 2-run double by Grichuk.
So he's got Grichuk down 0-2, 1 pitch away from getting out of the inning, and he puts a pitch on the dot, right on the upper inside corner. Could have been called strike 3 by Ryan Wills, the home plate umpire. I don't think anybody would have argued it if he had. He didn't call it. It was, a 50-50 call. I don't think you can get furious at an umpire for that one because it's so close, but it proved critical because instead of the inning being over, it extends. And the very next pitch, he tries to go with another fastball, 98 miles an hour. We know he has a good arm, but he put it over the plate, and that gives up the 2-run double. So, yeah, you can be frustrated by the call that didn't go their way, but if you're going to be a premier late-inning reliever in this league, that's going to happen to you sometimes. And you've got to come back with another quality pitch after that. You can't just say, well, I just better throw this one over the plate. And that's not good enough. It's got to be well located. And he didn't do that. And, this is a couple of games now that he has taken the loss for them. Winnable games. I know he's got great stuff. I know there are moments in each of these outings that you say, okay, I see what they see. This can be a big-time lefty out of the bullpen late in games. But he's got to learn how to lock it down and prevent that run from scoring, especially in a tie game.
7.23 now is the Nats relief pitching ERA for this regular season as compared to a starting pitching ERA of 3.86. Even with the starting pitching lately having not been great, it still overall has been just fine, if not good. The bullpen has just been such a problem, and every game you have to budget for the bullpen giving up at least a run and more likely than not more than a run. That's just the way that it has been so far this season.
And we still, I think I mentioned this the other day, we're still now 7 games in. Their top 2 guys, in theory, based on performance, Kyle Finnegan, Jorge Lopez, they've each made 2 appearances through 7 games. And it's guys like Sims and Poche who are getting a lot more work. Now, I understand why that is. 6th, 7th inning of a game, you're going to those kind of arms. You're saving up Lopez and Finnegan for the 8th and the 9th, ideally when you have the lead or are tied, and they've been trailing pretty much all these games. That's why they're not pitching. But I think we have this discussion every once in a while over the years since we started doing this. You'd like to think that your best relievers are the ones who get the most work, and that often is not the case because they're not in a position to win all these games, and so they don't pitch as much, and they sit around and go ice cold for days at a time because the team isn't good enough to give them a lead or at least be tied going into the late innings.
And this was part of what happened with Kyle Finnegan as last season went on. He was not utilized all that much down the stretch, and it wasn't necessarily because Davey Martinez was like punishing Finnegan or wasn't trying to use Finnegan. It's just that the way things played out, Finnegan wasn't deployed. And, look, it's a tricky deal. And I don't envy managers in that regard because, you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't. If you burn your top guys and then they're not available for you when you do have leads, people kill you as a manager. But then the opposite becomes the case, like we're just talking about. Your top guys don't pitch if you're not establishing leads. So, what exactly are you supposed to do? But there's no doubt, in theory, your top relievers should be your innings-eating relievers. And that's not the case, at least not so far.
This episode is brought to you by Open Window Property Management, LLC. The parent company has been serving military families for 40 years now, and Open Window brings that experience to you, serving the whole DMV. Open Window prides themselves on communication, so when a homeowner calls, they get a designated property manager, not an AI bot. Among the services, free no obligation quote, tenant screening, move-in support, 24/7 emergency services, financial statements to homeowners, and rental inspections of the rental unit during the leasing period. Finally, here's the referral fee for licensed realtors. 50% off the next monthly management fee for any client who refers another homeowner. Tell you that one more time. 50% off the next monthly management fee for any client who refers another homeowner. Here's the number, 703-955-4017. Again, that's 703-955-4017.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Take me out to the ball game.
What are you doing?
Did you know DirecTV has the most MLB games?
So, you're singing.
Yeah, they put your favorite teams front and center right when you turn it on. Buy me some cold cuts and flapjacks.
Those aren't even the words.
I'm allergic to peanuts.
Stream DirecTV, home of the most MLB games. Visit DirecTV.com. Claim based on total games offered on national and regional sports networks. RSNs available with choice package or higher. Availability of RSNs varies by zip code and package.
Fought, holding the ball in his glove, now over the head, a full windup, the kick and the pitch, and Abrams drives it to deep right center field. No one's going to catch this one. It is gone. Goodbye. This game is tied. Into section 142 over the 14-foot 8-inch wall, about 3 rows deep. C.J. Abrams has homered 3 times in his last 4 games, RBI number 5, and we are even. Here in the bottom of the first inning, the Nationals won and the Diamondbacks won.
The Nats offense in this 6-4 loss to the Diamondbacks on Friday evening. So 4 runs, no walks, 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position, but 3 home runs to go with 5 singles. The Nats had 8 hits in this game. And so what otherwise was a not very good offensive performance actually ends up looking okay. I mean, 4 runs isn't terrible because the Nats hit the 3 home runs, and we had 2 homers in a 3-run first inning as the Nats got early offense. It was really good to see that. C.J. Abrams, another home run. This is becoming a very nice early season trend for the Nats. Abrams doing well. Abrams, as the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, 2 for 4 with the homer, also had a single. But he and that Nats 3-run first, a leadoff homer to right center field to tie the game at 1. The homer going a projected 414 feet per Statcast. That was Abrams' 3rd home run in 4 games. And Luis Garcia Jr., who had not done much so far this season, he homered. Garcia, as the Nats starting second baseman and number 5 batter, 1 for 4. He hit a 2-run homer in that 3-run first, a 2-out 2-run homer to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 3-1 Nats lead. And then the Nats later in the game got another homer. Nathaniel Lowe, he is the Nats starting first baseman and cleanup batter, 2 for 4 with a solo homer. He also had a single. A Lowe in a Nats 1-run 6, a 2-out solo homer to right field on a 1-2 pitch to tie the game at 4. So a few things going on here. The early game offense, the fact that the Nats as a team are hitting homers, and Abrams and Lowe are 2 early season standouts here for the Nats. Abrams has been really good lately, and Lowe has been a very solid contributor for the Nats.
Yeah, you think about what Nathaniel Lowe was brought here to do. Gold glove defense at first base and hit for power. And he's done both of those things here so far. You have to be pleased with that. Hitting homers at a higher rate than I think we would have believed was likely from him. And CJ, 3 homers in his last 4 games. And to do it right off the bat, first inning, that's obviously a great sign. Hit it off a curveball. That's another really good sign from him. And you want to be encouraged by all this. And I mean, they as a team have hit 12 home runs through 7 games. That's tied for 5th most in the majors. And really, when you look at the leaderboard here, team-wise, okay, the Yankees are off the charts, 23 homers in 7 games. That's insane. The Dodgers have 19. You know who's in that lineup and why they're going to be at the top. And then after that, it's the Cubs with 14. They've already played 10 games because remember, they went to Japan to face the Dodgers. So they've got games in hand. And then it's the Cardinals at 13, the Nationals, and the A's at 12. They are legitimately right there near the top of the league in home runs hit. And you would say, this is great. This is what we've been waiting to see for the last several years. Why aren't they winning more games? Because they're not scoring runs in other ways. They have 12 homers as a team and only 25 RBIs. Okay. Think about an individual player, power hitting player over the course of a season and what the ratio of home run to RBI would normally be. If you're a 30 homer guy, you're probably going to have 90 to 100 RBI, if not even more than that, about a 3-to-1 ratio. Where are they right now? As a team, it's 2-to-1. They're not driving in runs in any other ways. And I think the real culprit here is they're not drawing walks. They have 12 homers as a team. They only have 16 walks, second fewest in the majors. It's a little bit contradictory because to hit a home run, you got to swing at a good pitch. So they're getting the right pitches to swing at, but for whatever reason, they are not taking enough to draw walks, get themselves on base, and have chances at bigger innings.
Yeah, it's funny because the Nats last season were not good at drawing walks, but the Nats last season actually got on base at a decent clip. The Nats were like a middle of the pack on base percentage team. And a lot of that was that, they just hit a lot of singles. And so you had guys on base at a rate probably higher than most people would think. You're not seeing as much of that this season. You're seeing the homers, but you're not seeing as many singles. And that's really the difference. The walks, absolutely, you'd like to see an uptick in that. But that was a weakness for the team last season. Now, I think the increase in homers supersedes the decrease in singles. Like, I will take the increase in homers. I think most people will. And just hopefully the singles start to come. We've talked like in the case of a Dylan Cruz, who, by the way, did single on Friday evening. Guys are hitting some balls hard and they're just not necessarily dropping. And hopefully that changes as time goes on. You would think, though, with the walks, right? Like a guy like a James Wood, a Dylan Cruz, a Nathaniel Lowe, these guys can be high walk guys. And I would hope that we see that. I mean, we get it, Keibert Ruiz is probably never going to be Joey Votto in terms of drawing walks. And Abrams isn't necessarily a guy who profiles as a high walk guy, at least from what we've seen from him so far. But there are others in the lineup who you say to yourself, okay, those guys could draw some walks. So you'd like to think the walks will come. But like I said, last season, the walks really never came.
No, but you're right. They have guys who have the ability to do it. I mean, we saw James Wood, especially as a rookie, to have the eye that he displayed last year would suggest to you that this is a guy who's going to be a high on-base player for the majority of his career. And right now, it's only 7 games, but he's got 2 walks in the season and a .276 on-base percentage. I cannot imagine that's going to stay that way for very long. We know Dylan Cruz has obviously struggled big time, although starting to hit the ball better. You saw signs of this the last few days in Toronto. He hit a ball hard right at the right fielder in his first at-bat in this game, and then sure enough, in his second at-bat, finally his first hit, a solid single up the middle. So maybe some good signs there from him, although he's not drawing walks because he is still swinging a lot. But at least the contact is getting better there. I don't know what to make of it. I do think they're going to have to find a way to be a little more patient. I agree with you. I'll take the homers. That's a huge plus and a huge improvement from them across the board from where they've been the last several years. I'm just not sure why that's coinciding with so little else offensively. It's kind of an odd thing because you would think that the home runs are a byproduct of better at-bats in general, and it doesn't feel like outside of the actual home run at-bats that they're having good at-bats.
Are any Nats using the torpedo bat?
I saw several of them today during BP. I think that the shipment finally came in, and I think some of them were trying it out. I do not know if anyone was actually going to use it in the game. I don't believe anyone on the team had used one in a game prior to this point. When the whole craze took off last weekend with what the Yankees did, they, like a lot of teams, were suddenly saying, hey, we want some of those, and place some orders. And I saw a few of them in the bat rack in the dugout before the game on Friday, and I know guys were testing them out at least. But my sense is that for most of them, you don't just go into a game with that for the first time. You want to get a feel for it, use it in the cage, have a sense if it makes a difference or not, and then we'll see if maybe it does translate at some point in the actual gameplay.
But the point would be the Nats' high home run total isn't a function of like the torpedo bat. Like the Nats are legitimately hitting home runs. And by the way, remember this about Nathaniel Lowe, your highest paid Nationals player for this season, despite losing his arbitration case. But $10.3 million is your Nathaniel Lowe salary for this season. And yeah, with Dylan Cruz, very good to see him get that single. He was in that number 7 spot on Friday evening. 1 for 4, full count single up the middle. We said this a few shows ago. Maybe just something like that can get him going. Has been hitting balls hard. It's not like he's been, an embarrassment in the batter's box. It's just things have not gone his way. He has had some bad plate appearances, a lot of strikeouts, but good to finally get a hit there from Dylan Cruz, and hopefully that ignites him and he gets going.
And now, 2 pigeons who can't believe how good humans have it with DirecTV.
These humans are hopping from streaming apps to live sports without batting a wing.
All from the DirecTV home screen.
With just 1 click, you could be watching a baseball game, a movie on Netflix,
or a critically acclaimed documentary.
You watch documentaries?
I love the ones that leave you with a question.
What?
Exactly.
DirecTV, a better way to watch whatever you want to watch. Visit DirecTV.com. Internet-connected Gemini device, separate Netflix membership, and additional paid subscriptions required for third-party apps.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by pace, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
Hey Nats Chat, Tim Shover's here to tell you about the latest offer that Peak Tea has for our listeners. This one, the Nandica Tea, the ultimate fuel for performance. If you're like me and you see the rising cost of coffee, you're looking for a bit of an alternative, but you still need caffeine because of all those early mornings and late nights, then check this out, and they have a really good offer for our listeners. Nandica Tea has sustained crash-free energy, it boosts endurance and strength, and supports your digestive health. So not only gets you caffeine, but also it's good for you. So if you're tired of energy crashes and sluggish recovery, give us a shot. Peak is offering 20% off for life and a free starter kit with your first purchase. Go to peaklife.com/NatsChat. That's PIQUE life.com/NATSCHAT and start training on real energy today. Your workouts, your recovery, and your gains will thank you.
Now the pitch. Swing and a long drive, deep right field. Carroll's looking up. It's going, and gone. Goodbye. Into the second deck over the bullpen into section 238. Bang, zoom goes Luis Garcia Jr. with his first home run of the year. A 2-run shot with 2 out here in the bottom of the first inning on a 1-2 pitch, a fastball, and he did not miss it. Nationals take the lead. It's Washington 3, Arizona 1.
So the Nats, like I said, are honoring their 2005 team on Saturday by inducting it into the Ring of Honor. We actually had on Friday evening at Nationals Park some players from the 2005 team, Jamie Carroll, Chad Cordero, John Patterson, Brian Schneider, Ryan Zimmerman, of course. They participated in a pregame Q&A session. I was thinking about this. So if we took a vote amongst Nats fans, what's your all-time favorite Nats team? 2019 would win in a landslide. Am I wrong to think that 2005 would be number 2, that the 2005 team would finish ahead of the other Nationals playoff teams? Or is that too large of a statement to make about a team that ultimately went 81 and 81?
You are absolutely not wrong to have that belief. That is my belief personally, and I've talked to a lot of people over the years, both people around the team and fans who feel a similar way. And there's even a case to be made, as crazy as it sounds, that the most enjoyable season for a lot of people out of the 20 that they've played here was that first one. Even though it ended at 81 and 81, there was something about that team, the freshness of it, the kind of slapping it all together nature of how they got the team put together after moving from Montreal, playing at RFK Stadium. And it happened so organically. A team that was not supposed to be that good goes 50 and 31 in the first half of the season. An amazing June where I think they won 20 games. The stadium's bouncing up and down every night. That's still their highest attendance season in 20 years, more than any of the playoff teams ever drew. There is a soft spot for that team. And I wrote about it some on Friday morning about how the first one, you always remember it. And nothing's ever going to compare to the first one. And yes, winning a World Series is incredibly special, and that has lasting memories and an impact on the franchise for many, many years. And there's a pennant that's going to fly forever because of it. But there is something to be said for that first one because it was all new. You had no idea where this was going to go. And because they put together such a surprising and inspiring first half to that year, I don't know what would have happened in the years after it. Maybe we have the same history of Nationals baseball regardless of that first year. But I'd like to think that what they did, especially in June and early July that year, is what helped turn this into a baseball town where you could expect 30,000+ fans to come to the ballpark and really make it into an event and the place to be. And so I personally have always had a special feeling about that team. And in some ways, it was more enjoyable than covering a World Series team in 2019, as hard as that may be for people to believe.
50 and 31 was the record 81 games for the Nats in that regular season. That is stunning to think about. And then, of course, you have the opposite the rest of the way, 31 and 50. But when that team was 50 and 31 and you had Frank Robinson, you're saying to yourself, this isn't so hard, like this team is on pace to win 100 games. Like away we go. And, things came crashing back down to earth. That was a team that in a lot of ways was a house of cards. The run differential was not very good at 50 and 31, but that was a fun season. And, I said this when we started this season. It still is something that I think you don't take for granted that an MLB team is in Washington, D.C. off the city going 1972 through 2004 without an MLB team. I mean, you think about that. It was kind of considered a pie in the sky deal an MLB team being in D.C. again. And so to have one is something that's a very special thing. I mentioned this at the top of the show. So Michael Soroka does go on the 15-day injured list with what the Nats labeled a right arm bicep strain. The Nats brought up Jackson Rutledge from AAA Rochester. Soroka was supposed to start Game 3 of this series against the Diamondbacks. What are we looking at in terms of a starting pitcher for that game?
It's still to be determined, or at least to be announced, I suppose would be another way of putting it. The sense I get is that they want to wait and see how the first two games of the series would go. And obviously they've already played the Friday night game. If they can avoid using Brad Lord and avoid using a lot of relievers, I think then they go Sunday and say Lord gets the start, and maybe he's only going 3-4 innings tops, depending on his pitch count. Rutledge could also be available to follow him up, and then you use whoever else you have based on the game situation. I think they feel like they would like to be in a position to be able to do that. But if either of these first two games demanded the usage of Lord, especially, but Rutledge as well as like a multi-inning reliever, they would feel compelled to do that and then adjust as necessary. So the couple things they could do there, they could bump Trevor Williams up to Sunday and be on normal rest because of the off day they had this week. They can do the same with Mackenzie Gore for Monday. So they don't really need another starter until Tuesday against the Dodgers. So they could do that if they want. The other option, if they are to call somebody up, Shinosuke Ogasawara had a very good debut for Rochester, 6 innings, 1 run. The reports were very positive. Now, are they going to take that one outing and say that's enough to convince us that he's big league ready based off everything else they saw in spring training, which was not all that encouraging? I don't think that's the way they want to go with this. I think they know that he needs some time to establish his routine, prove what he can do against AAA competition before they make that move. So I don't think they want to do that. But if they have to, he would line up and be on schedule for it. I think Brad Lord is going to get the start, whether it's Sunday or even pushed back to Monday or Tuesday. And it's just a matter of how they get through the next couple of days and how much they need a bullpen before making that call.
Well, and the Nats are going to have a few games to have to figure out here because this is a 15-day IL stint, and it's only been backdated to April 1st. So Soroka's going to miss a few starts, and the Nats are going to have some things to figure out. It's unfortunate. It looked like this was trending in a direction in which Soroka would end up not missing a start, but that ends up not being the case. So this is going to be interesting. We talked about this off the DJ Hers news. The starting pitching depth is not what it appeared to be, especially if this team isn't trusting Ogasawara. The fact that they may already have to go to a reliever to start a game, that tells you something about where the starting pitching depth is right now.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say, Brad Lord is a reliever, but they do still view him as a starter. And I think in their mind all along, even putting him in the opening day bullpen, they felt like they would turn to him if the situation was right to start. It does raise the question now that we've seen this happen because of the other injuries to say, would they have been better off sending him to AAA and just let him start so that he'd be ready when something like this happened? Or is he better off now having made 3 relief appearances, gotten his feet wet a little bit, and then the time comes and he can start, but maybe he can't go the full 90 to 100 pitches you would want, and instead he's limited to 50 or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that all goes. But I do believe that they are still very high on him as a starting prospect and are just looking for the right situation to put him out there to do it.
Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher for Game 2 against Arizona, 4:05 p.m. first pitch on Saturday. If you would like to send a shout-out to someone who you care about via this podcast, email Tim Shovers, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a shout-out to deliver from Pete to his lovely wife, Liz, on her 60th birthday and on Pete's and Liz's 31st anniversary. Writes Pete about Liz. She's a fantastic baseball wife and all-around awesome partner, and after the thrill of 2019, she has stuck with me through many lean years in Washington Nationals fandom, but between us, I'm worried as the Nats keep struggling. She's increasingly infatuated with that good-looking Japanese stud Shohei Ohtani and his Los Angeles Dodgers. I feel like the attraction and marriage to the Nats may be on the rocks. Here's to hoping that the Nats turn things around soon. Well, thank you for that, Pete. Happy birthday, Liz. Happy anniversary to Pete and Liz. And unfortunately for Pete, Shohei's coming to town. So hopefully things don't get too hot and heavy between him and Liz.
Look, who among us hasn't been tempted by the great two-way player like Shohei Ohtani? I can sadly understand why that would provide a little bit of insecurity for anyone if that's going on. But stick with it. How many years did you say in marriage? 31. Pretty strong bond there. I would hope that, a couple of losing seasons and, one appearance here by Shohei Ohtani wouldn't destroy it altogether. Stick with it. You've made it this far. Better days are still ahead.
So the Nats are celebrating 20 years since the 2005 season, and Pete and Liz have their 31st anniversary. Pretty cool. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Open Window Property Management, LLC, which serves the entire DMV. And Open Window Property Management's parent company has been serving military families for 40 years. Give Open Window Property Management a call, 703-955-4017. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. If you would like to sponsor the show, contact the man who runs the show, Tim Shovers. The email address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Buck coming near side, and away from Mangiapane. Second unit here, Ovechkin, he scores!